Yo, what is up ladies and gentlemen, it is your boy IzuKage here with a one-shot series, and this is gonna be what if Naruto was trained by Teuchi. I've been sitting on this idea for way over 4 months, so it's about time I finally do it. But before we get into the what if, make sure to check out all the links in the description, and make sure to check out the sponsor of this video, and it's a legit sponsor, Fandom, so make sure to check the link in the description, but I'll be touching on that later on in the video. So I hope you all going to enjoy the what if. So we start this what if off with a 5-year-old Naruto walking through the streets of Konoha on a pretty rainy night. So Naruto, he's wandering the streets, and then he comes across this building with really bright lights, and there's this lantern outside of it. And Naruto, he's curious, so he goes up and checks it out. And when he goes around and peeks into the ramen shop, he gets a whiff of something that smells heavenly. It's so good. And Naruto looks in and sees this old man calling him in, but Naruto knows from his experience with the other villagers to not trust any of them. So Naruto, he turns around and tries running off, but as soon as he does, he bumps into this man's leg, and this guy stoops down and says, "Watch where you're going." But then he pauses, and then he realizes who this kid is, and a smile appears across his face, and he's like, "Oh, the Nine-Tails brat. I never thought I'll ever get the chance to see you." And Naruto is getting a bad feeling about this guy and tried getting up but slips because, it's raining outside. And the guy grabs Naruto's shirt and lifts him up and pulls his fist back, but then the man is frozen in place and his eyes are looking around but he can't move or talk. And then from the alley beside them, Teuchi comes out and grabs Naruto and takes him inside, where he dries him off with a towel that he has. And he gives Naruto something to warm him up, and the perfect thing is a hot bowl of ramen. So Naruto, he was hesitant at first, but after taking just a sip of the broth, he scarfed it all down, the entire bowl, and Teuchi lets out a laugh. So we have a 3-year time skip. 3 years have passed and Naruto is on his way to his first day at the academy, but like almost every day, he stops at Ichiraku Ramen. So when Naruto walks in, Teuchi says, "Naruto, how are you?" Naruto lets out a big smile and says, "I'm great because today's the first day of the academy. Then I can finally become a real ninja and start my journey to become the Hokage." And Teuchi is like, "Really? Well, this bowl is on the house." And Naruto starts celebrating, and Teuchi watches him with a smile as Naruto enjoys his ramen. So when he's done, Naruto looks satisfied and he's about ready to leave and head to the academy. But Teuchi says, "Naruto, hold up. When you're coming back from school, I have something to give you." Naruto, hearing this, is curious but excited and says, "Is it gonna be more ramen?" And Teuchi smiles and says, "Something even better." Now Naruto is beginning to think, what's better than ramen? But he runs off in excitement anyways, and while he's in class the entire day, he can't sit still because he just wants to know what the surprise is, and all his teammates are like, "That's Naruto for you, the hyperactive knucklehead ninja." So after school lets out, Naruto runs to the shop, but when he gets there, Naruto doesn't see Teuchi or Ayame. He calls for Teuchi and he sounds really muffled but says, "Oh, Naruto, just come around to the back." And Naruto was hesitant but ducked under the counter and started walking towards the door he heard Teuchi calling out from. And when he opens the door, Teuchi is standing there and says, "You finally made it, come with me." So Naruto begins following Teuchi through the dimly lit room, and on the walls, Naruto is passing weapons of all kinds, like he sees scrolls and kunais and even scythes, and Naruto, he's getting a bit worried, but he still follows, and Teuchi, he stops in the middle of the room, and while his back is still turned to Naruto, he says, "Naruto, I've been really beginning to see you like a son I never had. From the first day I met you, you've always brought me joy, so I want to give you this." And Teuchi turns around and quickly covers Naruto's eyes and lets go after. after a second, and Naruto is confused why he did that, but he looks up at Teuchi and sees his eyes glowing purple, and Naruto is wondering what that is. And Teuchi directs Naruto to a seat and says, "I have to tell you a story for everything to make sense. 1,000 years ago, I arrived on Earth with my daughter Kaguya and my brother Ishiki Ototsuki. After my daughter betrayed my brother, mortally wounding him, I decided to see what she was planning. I saw how my daughter connected with a human, so instead of taking the life force from this planet, I decided to stay and see what my daughter saw in this tiny planet. And after hundreds of years living in the background and observing what the human race had to offer, I realized the flaws of man and decided to see if I could fit in. So I changed my appearance into a human child and grew like them, talked like them, and I became more and more like the people I once sought to destroy. My talents as a ninja landed me on a team with the 3rd Hokage and the soon-to-be 4th Hokage, Minato Namikaze. And after becoming Jonin, I decided to slow things down and live amongst the villagers, developing my skills as a cook, and I married a woman and had my other daughter Ayame. But unfortunately, my wife died in the Nine Tails attack, but that never stopped us. And Naruto is sitting there listening to all of this and says, "What's a earth?" And Teuchi facepalms so hard and just takes a deep breath and says, "Never mind, just know I want to pass on some power onto you." And that's when Naruto got really excited, but he stops and said, "Why?" And in his head, Teuchi, he began having flashbacks of Minato in his younger years and how he reminded him so much of Naruto and how guilty he feels that Minato's son is not having the respect he deserved. So Teuchi said, "Well, because I want you to be strong. Now remember when I covered your eyes earlier, that was your gift." And Naruto was confused and said, "How?" And Teuchi gets up and goes to a table with a bunch of ninja tools and takes up a kunai, and he hands it to Naruto, and looking in the reflection of it, he sees his eyes and they are purple just like Teuchi's. And Naruto is wondering, what is this? And Teuchi explains that these eyes are called the Rinnegan. And Naruto, he stops and he's starting to think back to where he's heard that word before. And he remembers one time he was passing the library and people were talking about things called dojutsu, like Sharingan, Byakugan, and one that is really rare, only wielded by gods, the Rinnegan. And Naruto is wondering, does he have that much power that people consider him a god? So Teuchi, he's actually reading Naruto's mind and he's hearing all of this and he couldn't help but smile. So he tells Naruto that they'll start their training tomorrow after he finishes his schoolwork. So Naruto, he's really excited and then he rushes home and then goes into the bathroom to like check out his new eyes, but when he goes, they're gone. So Naruto, he's like, what the heck? I just saw them. But since these Rinnegan are bestowed upon Naruto by a full Otsutsuki, they're actually a little bit different than ones that Pain would use. Because Naruto, these can activate and deactivate similar to the Sharingan, so they're not always there. So Naruto can hide them if he wants to. So Naruto is a bit disappointed that he isn't able to see them, but he just sleeps it off, goes to school, and that day in school, they had some outdoor activities, nothing too major, but Naruto, he felt a bit different. Like he had more stamina, he didn't feel as tired after all of the working out because they did something similar to this on the first day, but it was actually way more easier. Like the other day, Naruto was tired by the end of it, but Naruto could do another 10. So after school that day, Naruto went to the training ground that Teuchi told him to go to, and he's looking around but sees no one. But from behind him, Teuchi, it's like he phased in, like he was invisible and phased into reality. And he tapped Naruto's shoulder and Naruto jumped back and said, "Where did you come from?" And Teuchi lets out a laugh and says, "Don't worry about that. Now let me teach you how to use that thing." And Naruto is wondering, yeah, about that. I'm sorry, I lost the eyes you gave me. And Teuchi, he's laughing and said, you didn't lose them, they're still there, it just isn't activated. And Naruto is like, oh, I knew that. And Teuchi, he just says, sure. All you have to do is focus some chakra into your eyes and they'll just activate. So Naruto, the little he knows about chakra control, he imagines to focus it in his eyes, and that's when the Rinnegan appear. And the way Naruto could tell that it actually activated is some of his senses are heightened, like he can see really far away, he can hear really far away, and overall his perception of time seems a bit slower. So Teuchi begins to speak to Naruto, telling him all the facets of the Rinnegan and how powerful it can be. And Naruto, he's listening to all of this and all he can think about is beating Sasuke, because on the first day of the academy, Sasuke humiliated him in front of everyone in the class. And Teuchi is listening to Naruto's thoughts and sighs and says, Naruto, listen to me. And he goes onto one knee and puts a hand on Naruto's shoulder and says, promise me to use the Rinnegan when it's 100% necessary, when you see no other option, when the ones closest to you are at risk of dying. And this really hit Naruto to the core. No one has ever talked to him that seriously, and Naruto, with a determined look on his face, says, yes, I will. So Teuchi begins Naruto's training and he makes sure the Rinnegan isn't active during any of this. And Naruto has to do a bunch of things like carry boulders around, run laps around the village, and different things like that. And by a month into this training, Naruto looks a lot different. Like you can see him starting to get more built. So one day while Naruto is running his usual laps around the village, he would normally go to like 80 laps, but today Naruto is going just until he drops. So he goes around 107 times and then he flops over onto the ground when he finishes the last one, and he's just breathing heavily, staring into the sky. And he's laying there when Hinata sees Naruto on the ground and says, finally, I've been trying to talk to him for days. And Hinata walks up to Naruto with a basket and she says, hey Naruto. And Naruto jumps because he wasn't expecting anyone to be around, and then sees it's Hinata and says, oh, it's you, what's up? And Hinata is a bit shy, but she's been trying to catch up with Naruto for days, so she's not gonna let her shyness get one up on her. So she doesn't really say much and shows Naruto what's inside of the basket. And it's a bunch of fruits, things that, replenish Naruto's energy. And he's just stuffing his mouth with it because these are delicious. Like some of the best things Naruto has ever had. And then he's realizing he's being sort of a slob, so he cleans himself up and says, oh, I'm sorry, it was really good. And Hinata this entire time, she's been giggling, and Naruto, does a nervous laugh. And Hinata says, well, whenever you're tired, I could bring more fruits. And Naruto's like, Naruto, he can't talk, he just nods with the food in his mouth. And Hinata, she's, expected this from Naruto, but, it's a bit funny. So after doing all of that, Naruto, he returns to Teuchi and said, what took him so long? He should have finished those laps quicker. And Naruto, he's like, okay, oh man, I don't see you running any laps. And Teuchi's like, oh, you really want to race, huh? And Naruto said, I'll beat you either ways. And Teuchi says, okay, alright, the first one to Ichiraku Ramen. And Naruto is like, deal, and he runs off, leaving Teuchi in the dust. And Naruto is like, there's no way he's winning. So Naruto runs all the way to the ramen shop and he makes it, and the store is entirely empty. And Naruto's like, yes, let's go. Well, Ayame is still there, but he says, let's go, I made it before him. So Naruto, he looks outside, waiting to see if Teuchi was right behind him. But he's confused because he doesn't see Teuchi at all. So Naruto, he's thinking he must be really slow in his old age. So he turns to Ayame and asks her for a bowl of ramen. But when Naruto turns around, he sees Teuchi and says, alright, bowl of ramen coming up. And Naruto is like, how? But you went... And then he starts stuttering, and then Teuchi puts down the bowl of ramen and Naruto sits defeated and says, thank you for the food. And Naruto starts eating. So we fast forward to the next day, and Naruto came to the training ground thinking it would just be another normal day of training. But Teuchi, he didn't have his normal attire on. He looks like he was going out to travel. So he asks Teuchi what's all this about, and Teuchi says, well, what's the point of training if you can never use it? You need some experience after all. And Naruto is still kind of confused and says, so what are we gonna do? And Teuchi says, well, we're leaving the village, of course. And Naruto, he actually never thought of this. He'd never been out of the village himself. And he says, oh, okay, when are we leaving? So Teuchi, he just throws Naruto a bag with a bunch of supplies and says, right now. So Teuchi, he starts walking, and Naruto, he just follows behind. And they start going on, not really an adventure, but they start traveling far across the land. And I mean, they're walking for like days. And by this time, they're out of the land of fire, and they go to the land of mist. And Naruto is asking Teuchi why they went this far, like where are they going? And Teuchi, he tells him he has a test for Naruto and takes him to the mist village. And while they're in the mist, the whole civil war, I'm pretty sure that's what it was, that all is happening, and the Three Tails Isobu, it is on the loose, and Teuchi wants to see how well Naruto could combat this beast. And Naruto, first off, he's wondering how Teuchi even knew about this. And Teuchi, he just says that when you've been around for as long as he has, you can predict a lot of things because humans are relatively simple creatures. So Naruto, he doesn't really think much about it, and he sees the giant Three Tails turtle looking thing on the loose. And I'm not even gonna lie to you, Naruto, he went hard on this tail beast. Naruto used his Rinnegan in a way that Teuchi, he never even taught Naruto because Naruto had been training with it on his own. So Naruto, he would summon his own giant beast to, sort of weaken the tail beast enough, but the tail beast would just use a tail beast bomb and blast it away. And then Naruto, he would use something that Teuchi thought that he couldn't, like this was the last stage of the Rinnegan. He used planetary devastation. And the tail beast started floating up into this small planet, and it got trapped inside and sealed within that. And Teuchi, he's amazed by Naruto's progress, and he says, well, the second stage of your training can finally begin. And Naruto, he's wondering what he means by stages, but he's talking about how Naruto is the descendant of his grandson's son, so his great-grandson, I think. He just means he's going to show Naruto how to tap into his Ashura path. But after dealing with the Three Tails, Naruto and Teuchi, they strike a deal with the newly formed IzuKage to have it sealed within, well, whoever they want. And Naruto, they don't really care. And after that little trip, they return to the Leaf Village. So Naruto, he gets through the academy, and Naruto, like usual, he's placed on Team 7 with Sasuke and Sakura. So for the rest of this, I'm really just gonna speed run the entire Naruto series, because if I were to just explain it all, this would not be a one-shot. It would be like a Naruto movie, and I really just wanted to explore the idea of Teuchi having these powers and giving it to Naruto, and his whole backstory, that as well. I thought that was really cool to make up. But for the rest of the story, I mean, it's really just gonna be a wipe for Naruto. He's gonna have almost zero trouble. The only trouble Naruto is gonna have is when it comes up to Shippuden. And later on in Shippuden, when Naruto is fighting Pain and when Otsutsuki start coming in, things like that. But after Teuchi teaches Naruto how to tap into his tail beast powers and Ashura's powers, everything stacked up, Naruto would be unstoppable. And after basically single-handedly stopping the war, Naruto would be praised as the greatest ninja of all time, and he would become Hokage like usual, and Naruto would serve for a really long time. But some of his biggest threats are yet to come, mainly the Otsutsuki clan. So what would Naruto be able to do to stop them? Personally, I don't know, but what I do know is he has to wear some drip, and the best place to get some is the anime merch store called Fandom. Yes, I have a legit sponsor, so I would love for you guys to check out the link in the description or the pinned comment, and to show you guys that I actually believe in the quality that these guys are producing, I bought a hoodie from the store, and when it comes, I might do a face reveal. So check out the link in the description. You know, you guys can support me and get some cool anime merch in the process. And with that all said, thank you guys for sticking around to the end of the video. And if you liked it, and if you like my content in general, consider subscribing, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next What If.